Hello, my name is Aubrey, and today I am here with my top 10 books of 2024. So for my subscribers, and for those of you who have been following my channel, it's been a little while. Hurricane Helene just completely knocked us all on our asses and ruined all of my end of year plans. So that's kind of what I've been dealing with, but today I am back and I'm hopefully back for good. And I'm so excited to share with you my top 10 reads of the year. Anyway, let's just get started with my number 10 slot, which is Spells for Forgetting by Adrienne Young. This is a beautifully atmospheric book that I enjoyed very much. It takes place on this like really sleepy, really mysterious, a little bit magical island. The community there has lived on this island for generations. It's very tight-knit, everybody knows everybody. Certain things happen that can be construed as like an omen, like the island trying to tell you something. And there are certain like generations of families on the island that are very important. Some of them are magical, like they have passed down tomes of like magical spells and stuff through like their children. So we're following two characters. We're following Emery, who has lived on this island her entire life, and she had this really horrible thing happen to her when she was a young teenager. Her best friend was murdered. So we're following her in her adulthood, you know, many years after this has happened, but we're also following her ex-boyfriend August, who fled the island when they were teenagers because everyone was convinced that he was the one that murdered Emery's best friend. And the story starts when August returns to this island because his mother, after she passes away, insists that she be buried on the island. Mysterious things start happening on the island. You know, the trees are acting funny, the birds are acting funny. There are, of course, a lot of emotions that come up throughout the town. People who think that August is innocent and people who think that August did it. I just really enjoyed it. I feel like it has elements of like Gilmore Girls and Practical Magic, like if you smush those two things together in terms of like the small town, the tight-knit community, the people who all know each other and are a little bit nosy, with like the sweet, earthy magic of like Practical Magic, but then add a murder mystery. And if you swirl it all together, I feel like that's what you get with Spells for Forgetting, and I just really liked it. The writing is beautiful, it's very atmospheric. I enjoyed both of our main characters. I just had a really good time with this, and I'm looking forward to reading more from Adrienne Young. All right, coming in at number 9, I have The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. And this was one of the last reads that I read in 2024, and I just thought this was so lovely and cozy. We're on this ship in outer space, and we're just following this like crew on the ship in outer space, and the crew is made up of different species, and we get to learn about all of these different species and how they are culturally different from one another, how they treat gender, how they treat relationships. It's somewhat plotless, which is what has kept me from reading it for so long, because I was a little bit worried it was going to feel boring. Because when I hear books have no plot, I'm like, But I've got to say that it really works here. It feels kind of episodic almost. We'll have situations that a character is like wrestling with an obstacle or a moral decision or a relationship, and we're seeing like a little pocket in time of that happening, and then we kind of move on to something else and a different character and what they're doing, and then we hop over to someone else and we're dealing with them. So we're sort of just jumping around and we're interacting with this crew and we're learning more about them and we're watching their like dynamics unfold. It's just really good, and it's one of those books that I think is really more about the themes and the ideas than anything else. But Becky Chambers was able to somehow create like some of the most lovable characters I've ever read. It's this mix of like just characters that are like so endearing and you just automatically love them so much. And then she's using these like delightful characters to explore these really interesting ideas and conversations that she wants to have about gender, about humanity and culture and sexuality. I don't know, it was just really good. I really recommend this. It's one of those books that kind of took me by surprise by how much I liked it, and the reasons why I liked it, you know? Because there really is not much of a plot. Like, the story doesn't evolve in a traditional way, but it was still really engaging, and I was interested the entire time. I was never bored. And I really fell in love with the characters. I loved getting to spend time with them and getting to know them. So yes, The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet coming in at number 9. Coming in at number 8, I have Legends and Lattes and Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldree. These were the books that started off my year, and I really enjoyed both of them. I think these are so cozy. I think they're sweet. I think they're endearing. I'm sure that you already know what this is about, but just in case that you don't, we're following our main character Viv, who is an orc who has decided to give up the bloody life of being a barbarian and open up a coffee shop instead. And the story is just about her and her coffee shop, learning, you know, how to get customers and how to improve her shop so that more people will want to come in, and things that she can put on the menu to upsell to them, ways to make the environment cozy so that people will want to stay, learning more about her community and making connections and making friends. And it's just really sweet. It has a lot of my favorite things like found family and second chances. These books are like the perfect palette cleanser between big epic fantasy books if you're like a hardcore fantasy reader, because they're light, they're a little bit fluffy, they're hopeful and endearing, and I just really loved both of them. So Legends and Lattes, Bookshops and Bone Dust coming in at number 8. Coming in at number 7 is the Trials of Morrigan Crow series. The series is not finished. I don't know how many books there are supposed to be in the series, but currently there are only 3 books out, and that's what I read this year, and I had a really good time with these. These were the books that got me out of my summer-long reading slump, and they were absolutely perfect for that. It's a middle grade series, so, you know, it was light and whimsical and easy, but it also had a lot of adult themes. I found the humor to be adult-worthy most of the time. So in the first book, we're following Morrigan Crow, who is about to turn 11, and unfortunately for Morrigan Crow, she is a cursed child. Not only is she destined to die on her 11th birthday, but she's also led this very miserable life. Everyone in her town blames her for anything that goes wrong, even the slightest, silliest things. Like if you stub your toe, it's Morrigan Crow's fault. If your crops fail, if your pet hamster dies, you know, it's she did it. She's a cursed child. On the night of her 11th birthday, when she's destined to die, in comes this very whimsical man named Jupiter North, who sweeps her away to the town of Nevermore, which is this magical hidden city. And in order to cement her place there, she has to go through a number of trials and succeed. I don't know what else to say. It's just cute. It has really dry, excellent British humor that I love. Again, I think the themes are very adult, especially as we go throughout the series. The books get darker and darker and more interesting. And I really appreciate what Jessica Townsend is going for here. I think that these are really important topics for kids. I like that there's a lot of grayness to a lot of the characters' morality and things like that. Like, I just think there are some big, interesting discussions that are being had in this middle grade series that I applaud. But that are also delivered in a fun, whimsical, entertaining way. I absolutely loved these. I'm officially a die-hard Nevermore fan. I can't wait for book 4 to come out this year, which hopefully it will. I think it's been delayed several times, but I think this year is going to be the year. So yes, The Trials of Morrigan Crow coming in at number 7. All right, coming in at number 6, I have Annibot by Sierra Greer. And this is another one that I think just had really interesting ideas and themes that I just enjoyed immensely. So we're following our main character Annibot, who is a girlfriend simulator / sex bot. It's all about her toxic relationship with her boyfriend, Doug. Because, you know, Doug owns her. Literally, he owns her, and she literally is an object. We start the story where Annie has, like, sort of just recently come to sentience, I guess. Like, she used to be a cleaning bot, kind of like a simpler household cleaning bot, and then Doug upgraded her to have a smarter AI and more of a personality, and she has the ability to like develop, right? She can learn new things and grow as a person, you know? And it's just such an interesting book. Like, it's such a fascinating book, and I don't think it's perfect, but I really enjoyed it. First of all, I couldn't put it down. I don't want to say that it reads like a thriller, because I don't think that that's necessarily true, but it has this bingeable quality, mostly because everything underneath the surface is so sinister and creepy, and I was so scared for Annie. And I just wanted to know what was going to happen to her, and I wanted her to be able to get out of her situation. The question that you have to ask yourself is, what kind of guy wants a robot for a girlfriend? You know, like, what kind of man wants a robot for his companion? Like, I'm not just talking like a sexy robot that you want to bang. I'm talking like his girlfriend, someone that can't say no to him, somebody that is programmed to listen to what he says, to make him the center of attention, to have no life or meaning outside of him, right? And it's just that exploration, you know. It's Annie, again, especially at the beginning, starting out in that place of like, Doug is my whole life and my entire purpose is to make Doug happy. Watching her grow to having a bit more critical thinking, you know, to being a bit more imaginative, to having bigger, you know, more interests and dreams for herself. I don't know. It's one of those books where it was like, it was fascinating. Like, reading this was just absolutely fascinating, like a really interesting exploration of something. It's a hard book to recommend because it is difficult to read. There are parts that are disturbing. There are levels of like psychological abuse going on. It's not like a universal, I think everyone should read this type of book, but I did really enjoy it, and I think more people should read it. So yeah, Annie Bot, coming in at number 6. All right, so now I'm down to my top 5, and coming in at number 5, I have Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies and Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands. I just love these. I fell in love with these this year. I absolutely love Emily and Wendell. Well, wait, I should back up a little bit. We're following Emily Wilde, who is a stuffy Cambridge professor. She is very distinguished. She is very intelligent. She is very meticulous. She is like the head researcher on fairies. She knows so much about fae, and she is sent on this like expedition to this really cold, wintry town where there are supposed to be some really rare fae, and she's gonna go study them. It turns out that she is really bad at human relationships, and she keeps putting her foot in her mouth with the locals, and they don't like her because she comes off as rude and standoffish, which, you know, she is a little bit rude and standoffish. So this is really starting to get in the way of her being able to do her research, because she needs the help from the locals to like study these fairies. And along comes her colleague, Wendell Bamblebee. Wendell Bamblebee is this charismatic, charming professor who maybe has questionable morals, is also maybe questionably human. I mean, you can never tell, right? Their dynamic is just so much fun. Like, their banter, their chemistry, it's grumpy sunshine. I love it so much. I'm so obsessed with Wendell and Emily. It's not even funny. These are the kind of books that make you squeal, you know? Like, when you're just like reading something where there's so much tension and the characters are making you laugh and they're bantering with each other and you're just like kicking your feet like a little girl and just like squealing out loud. That's what these books did to me. I had such a good time. I love them both as characters. I love all of the side characters. I love the fae, because there's like an array of different kinds of fae. There are some fae that are creepy and tricky and very sinister. And there's other fae that are like sweet and charming and helpful. You know, there's other fae that's very like ethereal and beautiful. And some fae are cold and ugly, and just, you know, there's like all kinds. The exploration of the world is fun. The communities and environments that we get to explore, it all just works really well. At the heart is Emily and Bamblebee. They are the secret ingredient, but everything else works too. And I just think these books are wonderful. So yeah, excited for book 3, but like, please tell me that there are going to be 10 more. Okay, at number 4, I have The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. This is an oldie, but a goodie. I finally read it this year. It's been sitting on my TBR forever, and I have to say that it won me over. Like, it really, really won me over big time. I went in a little bit skeptical. Like, I wasn't sure if it was gonna be for me, you know, kind of like Legends and Lattes. Like, I was just like, is it gonna be too sugary sweet? Is it too popular? Am I gonna like it? And yes, I did. It checked a lot of boxes for me personally. So I'm like a found family girly. Like, if you give me found family in a story and it's convincing and I love all the characters, usually it's a favorite. I can't help it. Extra points if your found family comes from like orphaned children. I just love stories about orphaned kids or abandoned kids, like adoption, children finding families that want and love them. That's just like a whole other category of story that I love, with more themes of like finding yourself and becoming the person that you have always wanted to be. And it's never too late to be happy and to like find your bliss and find your family. Like, it just, you know, I'm a simple girl, and The House on the Cerulean Sea just, it did the damn thing. I totally understand somebody reading this and feeling like it's too twee, too sweet, too easy, you know, maybe it's not dark enough. I get it, you know, like I see you, I hear you, but for me, it was a really lovely time, and I'm just, I don't know, I'm obsessed with it. I love these characters. I love all the kids. Oh, I don't think I told you what it's about. I just went right into gushing. We are following Linus Baker, who works for extremely upper management, and his job is to go around to these orphanages full of magical children and evaluate the orphanages and make sure that they're like up to code, that they're doing all the things they're supposed to be doing, that children are well taken care for, that everything's by the book. And should one of these orphanages get shut down on his recommendation, well, you know, that's his job. He's just doing what he's supposed to be doing. Whatever happens to those kids as a result, that's not his problem. One day he gets summoned to go to this like really mysterious orphanage, top secret, hush hush. Nobody's ever heard of this place. It's this very like top secret mission to go to this specific orphanage full of like more dangerous, weirder children. And when Linus gets there, he realizes that he is a bit in over his head with these kids. The orphanage caretaker is a little bit too attractive, if you know what I mean. It's all just a bit much, but he's drawn into these kids. He's drawn into this, like the world building of this island that they're on. It's just really heartwarming, like the way that he falls in love with them, how they fall in love with him and grow to accept him and want him. It's just really lovely. Like, it's just like lovely is the word that I would use. It's like all around charming, lovely, wholesome. So yeah, The House in the Cerulean Sea, highly recommend. I'm looking forward to the sequel. And yeah, this comes in at number 4. Okay, coming in at number 3, I have The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. This is a slow burn historical mystery novel where this young girl, Barbara Van Laar, has gone missing from her summer camp. The thing about Barbara Van Laar is that she is the daughter of the family, the very rich and prestigious family that owns this summer camp and a lot of the land surrounding the summer camp. And the even weirder thing is that she is not the first child of this family to go missing. So her brother went missing 14 years ago in these very same woods, never to be seen again. It's just about like figuring out what the hell happened to these kids. We're following a camp counselor who was Barbara's like specific counselor. We're following Barbara's best friend at camp. We're following Barbara's mother, both in the present day being 1975, but also we follow the mother in flashbacks when her son first went missing. We are following various members of the town, and eventually we are following the police investigator who shows up to solve the disappearances. It's just very, very good. This is the kind of book that is extremely meticulous. We are being fed information in a very specific way that makes you feel like the author really knows what they're doing and they have a really specific kind of story that they're telling. It's a mix of like being both really well written. I think Liz Moore is a good writer, having these creepy disappearances in this, you know, in this forest, in these woods, but then also having a lot of these conversations about class dynamics and with these really wealthy people, and then all the people who work under them, who work for them, and their view of those people and what's going on in that house. And, you know, the kinds of things that like really rich people can get away with, right? And the kinds of privileges that come with that amount of wealth. It was all just very interesting, and more than that, it was a really good story. Like, it was just a really good story. These characters felt so real to me to the point where even after I had finished this book, I like wondered how they were doing. Like, I wondered about things that they had mentioned that they wanted for their future and were going to happen like after the book was over and things like that. And I was like, I want to check in. Like, how are they doing? Are they okay? Like, did that thing come to fruition? It was just really good. I really enjoyed this. I think it is like a really outstanding book, to be honest, just the way that it was crafted, the level of care. The God of the Woods comes in at number 3, and I highly, highly recommend it. All right, coming in at number 2, I have The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chokshi. I absolutely adored this book. Have you ever read a book that you feel like was written just for you? Like, specifically for you in mind? This is just such a deliciously weird, dark, ugly, yet stunning little book. We are following 2 characters. We are in present day with the bridegroom who has met and fallen madly in love with Indigo Maxwell Castañeda, who is this gorgeous and wealthy woman who is also very mysterious and secretive and has a little bit of darkness to her. And so Indigo has told her bridegroom that they can live happily ever after if and only if he never digs into her past. And this is a promise that the bridegroom assumes that he can keep, and yet when Indigo's aunt falls deathly ill, they are forced to return to Indigo's childhood manor. This manor is a little bit magical, a little bit mysterious, and the manor is pulling the bridegroom into Indigo's past, whether he wants to be drawn in or not, and things become revealed to him that are a little bit alarming about his new bride. And we discover pretty early on that one of Indigo's best childhood friends, Azure, went missing, and nobody has seen or heard from her in many, many years. That is a mystery that the bridegroom has a very difficult time ignoring. But we are also flashing back to Azure when she was getting to become best friends with Indigo and what that was like, and their very toxic friendship with one another. The true like platonicness of that friendship being very blurry. There's like an obsession with each other that's a little bit, not a little bit, that's like very toxic and unhealthy. There are, you know, huge power dynamics between the two of them because Indigo is very wealthy, very powerful, and Azure has grown up in poverty. She's got this abusive stepfather who's very creepy and she doesn't like to be around. Indigo is this space of like security, both financially, but also like her house just feels like a safe haven and their friendship feels like a safe haven. But, you know, Indigo has all of the power, like all of the deciding power. And she's also just a lot more like charismatic. She's more confident and sure of herself than Azure. I don't think I can say more because it's such a short book. There's not much more to it. We're following these 2 characters. We're, you know, trying to figure out this mystery of what happened to Azure, and to me it was like watching a train wreck. You know, it's like you just like are watching this train wreck in slow motion and you can't look away. It's this slow march towards something awful and you don't know what the awful thing is, but you know that there's something really awful at the end, but you're like running towards it as fast as you can because it just like because it's just so good. That's how I felt reading this. It was just one of those books I couldn't put down. I listened to the audiobook and it's one of those situations where you're like trying to come up with chores for yourself so you can keep reading, because you can't just sit there and like stare at a wall and listen to an audiobook. I was like, can I fold laundry? Can I like go clean up the kitchen? Like I just wanted more tasks so I could keep reading. It was so unputdownable. I feel like the ending is what nails this book down from being good to being excellent. Like, it's good in its own right in terms of like the writing being very luscious and atmospheric and like sticky and just a very evocative writing style. You know, the mystery is good, the characters are interesting, like the character dynamics. It's all really good, and then you get to the ending and it's like, oh god, oh shit, like, was this the best book I've ever read? It really worked for me. This was like a knockout 5 stars, standing ovation. Like, I just loved this. The Last Tale of the Flower Bride, just an absolute yes for me, a resounding yes. It's got like a 3.7 on Goodreads right now. I don't know what book other people are reading, but this book, for me, 5 stars. 5 full stars. All right, and number 1, my number 1 spot, surprising absolutely no one, is the Winnowing Flame trilogy by Jen Williams. The Winnowing Flame trilogy just really defined my year, I think. I devoured these books. I just ate through them like popcorn. They were so good. I ended up doing a series review for this trilogy. I did a deep dive with Taylor from Made Between the Pages, and it just hasn't left me, you know? It just never left me, like, even after I'd finished it. And I finished this like early in the year. The characters and the world it just followed me. It just followed me all year long. And I absolutely love this series. It's a favorite of all time. Like, forever will I be shouting from the rooftops about the Winnowing Flame trilogy. This is just one of the most unique book series I've ever read. It is a blend of fantasy, sci-fi, and horror. There's all these moving parts. Like, it's a hard series to really give a brief synopsis of because there's just so much. We are plopped into this world where there are 3 different species, and we are following 3 different characters, each representing those different species. First of all, we have the Aborans. And the Aborans are these somewhat elf-like creatures. They are taller and stronger and more ethereal and more long-lived than humans. Because they are long-lived, they have amassed more wealth. They're into, much finer things. They like art and music and beautiful, epic weaponry and stuff like that. We have humans and we have fell witches. On this world, there is this like common enemy, which are the Juralia, the bug people. Every few hundred years, the bug people come down in their big ugly ships, and they try to take over the planet, and the Aborans and their tree god are able to fight them off. And so the Aborans are the heroes of this world. That is until in one of these cyclical wars, their tree god dies. It gets destroyed by the bug people, or at least we don't really know what happened. That's kind of what we think happened. And without their tree god, the Aborans lose their long life, because the sap from this tree is what grants the Aborans their long life and their strength and vitality. Suddenly, this amazing, beautiful race of creatures are slowly dying off. And so we start our story with one of the last remaining Aborans, who has decided to leave his city because it's dying and desolate and depressing. He joins up with another main character, Vintage, who is this eccentric and wonderful and sassy scientist who is exploring their world. She wants to learn more about the Juralia. There are these like behemoth ships that are wrecked all across the globe, and around these behemoth ships, things are kind of weird. Like, the foliage gets kind of like big and bulbous, and all the animals around these ships get kind of weird and bulbous and monstrous. And so she's just like using her fortune, using her wealth to kind of flit around and do research and try to figure out, like, what the hell are the Duralia and why do they keep attacking this planet? What are they doing here? What do they want? Like, she's just trying to figure out some answers to questions that have gone unanswered for millennia. And then we're also following a Fell Witch. They can harness the energy from any living thing and, like, sap it and use it to create, like, a magical winnow fire, which can be very disastrous and dangerous. All the Fell Witches of this world are, like, locked up in this prison for their own good. So we're following a Fell Witch, Noon, who has escaped from this prison, and it's the three of them together that end up, you know, discovering some interesting things about the Duralia and uncovering mysteries and questions that they didn't even know were mysteries and questions. I mean, it's just really excellent. It's just really, really excellent. And I would say that the strong point of the series is its use of mystery. I think Jen Williams really just nailed it with the amount of, like, cool stuff there is in this world and, like, cool things there are to discover, and, like, how weird her, you know, her villains are, like the bug people. Like, they're weird and you want to know what is up with them because they're so weird. And the stuff, like the behemoth wreckage, is so freaking weird, and you're like, what is going on with these weird ass ships, and, like, why is everything around them so strange? It's this mix of this, like, endlessly fascinating world, this just huge, fascinating world full of mysteries that you are on an adventure to figure out, with a group of characters that are so fun to be around. Like, their banter and their bickering is so entertaining. I feel like you fall in love with everyone so deeply and so immediately because they all have, like, a very specific kind of humor. For me, it just, like, really had almost everything that I want in a book. Like, it had good characters, excellent, interesting mysteries, fast pacing. Like, once, like, the beginning's a little slow, but once you reach a certain point, it's like the roller coaster's coming down, you know, you can't stop. The side characters are excellent. There are just some really lovely romances in here, like, kind of side, you know, it doesn't take over the plot. There's just some sweet little, like, ships in here that I adore. We get animal companions in book 2, which are so much fun. It just, like, it checks all the boxes for me. This series really, really checked all of my boxes. I just had the best time reading it. Like, I really had the best time reading it. And I wish that reading, like, every series felt like reading this series, because it was just a blast. Like, I had such a good time. I didn't want to stop reading. I never felt like I was forcing myself to read. Like, it was just good all the way through. So yeah, the Winnowing Flame trilogy. I will link my review and the deep dive that I did with Taylor down in the description if you need some more convincing. Truly, I feel like this is an outstanding series and I can't recommend it enough. All right, well, that is it for my top 10 list. Those were the best books that I read in 2024. Please let me know what your favorite books were from this past year. I would love to know. Did you read anything from this list? I would love to chat about those books with you in the comments. Please leave me all of your recommendations. I want to hear them. Please like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you want to see more from me. I hope to see you next time. Bye!